High on life, this is not your average shooter, not even close. The big hook here is the talking guns. They've got personality, sass, and opinions. They'll comment on everything you're doing, sometimes cheering you on, sometimes calling you out for being, let's say, less than stellar at aiming. It's like having a running commentary, but instead of a silent protagonist, your sidekicks are straight up roasting you or dropping the most bizarre one-liners. And the humor? Oh man, it's unapologetically ridiculous. This game was cooked up by the minds behind Rick and Morty, and it shows. You've got weird alien creatures, crazy scenarios, and a sense of humor that swings wildly between sharp satire and goofy chaos. Now, you might be wondering, does all that comedy get in the way of the gameplay? Not at all. At its core, High on Life is still a solid first-person shooter with smooth mechanics and satisfying gunplay. The weapons each have unique abilities that keep combat fresh and exciting. Whether you're bouncing around like a maniac or pulling off precise shots, the game gives you the tools to feel like you're doing something impressive, even when the dialogue insists on making you laugh about it. What makes High on Life stand out is how fully committed it is to being absurd. It's not just about shooting bad guys. It's about doing it in a way that makes you laugh so hard you almost forget you're actually fighting for something. You'll stumble into moments where you'll pause and think, wait, did that just happen? And yeah, it did. The game thrives on unpredictability. Tales of Arise. From the moment you jump in, it feels like the start of an epic road trip. Except instead of a car, you've got a team of incredible characters. And instead of highways, you're trekking through lush landscapes and fantastical settings. It's a game that constantly encourages you to explore, fight, and grow stronger, all while keeping you invested in the journey. Forget slow, turn-based action. This is fast, fluid, and downright addictive. So you've got combos, flashy skills, and an entire party of characters with unique fighting styles to experiment with. The game doesn't just let you button mash your way through. It rewards you for learning the rhythm of attacks, dodging at just the right moment, and timing your skills perfectly. Pulling off a massive combo or chaining abilities with your party feels incredible every time. Speaking of the party, the characters in Tales of Arise are such a highlight. Each one feels distinct, both in how they fight and how they interact. This isn't one of those games where your companions feel like accessories. They're integral to everything. They're constantly bantering, chiming in during fights, or offering insights as you explore. Exploration is another area where Tales of Arise shines. Whether you're diving into caves, trekking through forests, or wandering vast fields, the game makes every area feel worth your time. There's a sense of discovery in every corner, hidden treasure, optional fights, and even moments where the scenery alone makes you stop and take it all in. War of Rights. It's a Civil War FPS that focuses heavily on teamwork and strategy. At first, I thought it would just be another typical shooter, but the attention to detail is something else. Like, you don't just run around with a gun. You're part of a company, and you actually need to coordinate with your team to survive. You're not a lone wolf here. It's almost like being on an actual battlefield, with that chaos and intensity all around you. The first time I joined a battle, I was a little overwhelmed, to be honest. You've got dozens of players on each side, all in uniform, marching in formation, and you can hear officers barking out orders. It's kind of amazing how much that atmosphere pulls you in. You're really part of something bigger, which you don't get in most games. And speaking of orders, this game really forces you to think before you act. There's no sprinting across the map and gunning people down here. You have to stick with your squad, follow orders, and time your moves carefully. It's like a slower pace, but in the best way possible. It makes every decision count. One thing I love is that you're encouraged to communicate. And I'm talking real communication, not just trash talk. You actually need to speak to your fellow soldiers to succeed. It reminds me of those old-school LAN parties where you had to talk to each other to win. I've met some cool people just from having to strategize mid-battle. I also appreciate how historically accurate everything is. The developers really did their homework. The uniforms, the weapons, the way the battles play out, it's like a playable history lesson. Palworld. The game feels like a wild fusion of creativity, survival, and pure chaotic fun. It's a game that takes familiar ideas and flips them on their head, crafting a unique experience where you're building, battling, and bonding with these quirky creatures called pals. It's not just about collecting them. It's about finding clever ways to integrate them into every aspect of your journey. The core of the game revolves around teaming up with pals to survive and thrive in a sprawling open world. Each pal brings something unique to the table, whether it's combat skills, crafting abilities, or the sheer joy of watching them help with everyday tasks. They're not just companions, they're essential to how you tackle the challenges around you. From farming to fort building to full-blown firefights, pals aren't just along for the ride, they're active participants in everything you do. Combat is where the game gets delightfully chaotic. Pals are more than just support, they're part of the action. Whether you're wielding weapons alongside them or unleashing their special abilities, battles feel dynamic and unpredictable. The way the game combines ranged and melee mechanics with creature-based abilities adds a fresh twist to every encounter. Enemies don't feel like simple obstacles. They're opportunities to strategize and experiment with your team of pals. Palworld is a delightful mix of whimsy and survival, and it's worth every penny for the unique experience it offers. Echo. This is one of those games that feels like it was crafted in some strange secret lab where the only rule was, let's make something nobody's ever seen before. Imagine you're in this opulent, endless palace, like picture a space-age Versailles. It's pristine, beautiful, but also eerie. You're playing as N, someone who's just arrived in this surreal, otherworldly structure. But the kicker? The palace learns from you. Yeah, it watches what you do, takes notes, and then uses your own tactics against you. Think about that for a second. Let me give you an example. Say you're sneaking around, trying to avoid being spotted, and you decide to play it cool. Stick to the shadows, avoid unnecessary risks. Well, the palace is watching. It sees you being all stealthy and thinks, sneaking seems like a good idea. Now, suddenly, the enemies start sneaking around too. But maybe you're more of a run-and-gun type. If you sprint and blast your way through, guess what? The palace learns that too. And now you're dealing with enemies that sprint and blast you. The entire gameplay revolves around this dynamic, and it's genius. Every few minutes, the palace resets, like hitting a giant refresh button, and the rules of engagement completely change. Maybe it's aggressive now, maybe it's passive. It keeps you constantly on your toes, second-guessing every single move you make. What's really cool is how it makes you question your own strategies. It's like the game is saying, okay, you can do whatever you want, but are you sure you're ready to face yourself? Superliminal, a game that's as much a brain workout as it is pure, unfiltered fun. If you've ever looked at a shadow and thought, what if I could just grab that and turn it into something real? Then this game is about to blow your mind. The mechanics here are all about how you see the world. Literally, objects change size based on how you're looking at them. That tiny little cube on the table? Pick it up, look at it from a different angle, and suddenly it's as big as a house. It's a game that constantly challenges the way you think about space, size, and what's possible. The puzzles in Superliminal are an absolute delight. Each one feels like it's designed to make you stop and go, wait, what? But in the best way. There's no obvious do this, then that solution here. Instead, the game encourages you to experiment, mess around, and see what happens when you look at the world differently. It's a playground for your imagination, where the most creative and unexpected solutions are often the correct ones. What's really cool is how intuitive everything feels. The mechanics might sound complex, but the game does an amazing job of letting you figure it out naturally. There's no heavy-handed tutorial, no hand-holding. Instead, it gives you tools and trusts you to explore, learn, and adapt. And when you solve a puzzle that seemed impossible at first glance, the sense of accomplishment is unmatched. Now, here's the thing about Superliminal. It's not just about solving puzzles. It's about the journey of discovery. Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons. If you've played the original, you already know how special it is. But this remake? It somehow takes that emotional journey and makes it even more impactful. The core of the game remains the same. You're controlling two brothers on a quest to save their father. But the visual and gameplay enhancements in the remake make it feel even more immersive and engaging. The puzzles and challenges you face along the way are simple, but satisfying. Most of them revolve around using the brothers' different abilities. The older brother is stronger, while the younger one is more agile. But what makes them interesting is how they force you to think about the brothers as a team. One of the standout features of Brothers is its unique control scheme, where you control both brothers simultaneously using one controller. It sounds tricky at first, but you quickly get the hang of it, and it's such a clever way to tell this story. The older brother is controlled with one thumbstick, and the younger brother with the other, which creates this sense of connection between them. You're not just watching their bond. You're physically controlling it, which makes the emotional beats hit even harder. What I love about this game is how it tells its story without using any real dialogue. Everything is conveyed through body language, facial expressions, and the way the brothers interact with the world. It's so effective, and it proves that you don't need tons of exposition to tell a deeply emotional story. You're not just playing a game, you're living through these brothers' journey. Scum. What sets Scum apart from other survival games is how detailed it is. And I mean detailed. This isn't just about finding food and water to stay alive. No, Scum dives deep, literally, into your character's metabolism. You need to manage your energy, protein, hydration, and even vitamins. Yep, you might actually learn a bit about nutrition while playing. It sounds overwhelming, but it's surprisingly fun. You're not just playing a character, you're micromanaging a human being, and it's oddly satisfying to see everything come together when you're doing well. Of course, it wouldn't be a survival game without threats, right? The island is home to all sorts of challenges, from aggressive wildlife to freaky zombie-like creatures. And let's not forget other players. If you're playing on a multiplayer server, you'll need to keep an eye out for those who might see you as an easy target. But here's the thing. Scum gives you the tools to adapt to these dangers. You can focus on stealth and avoid conflict altogether, or you can gear up and take on anything, or anyone that stands in your way. And then there's the crafting. This game is a survivalist's dream when it comes to creating tools, weapons, and even shelter. Whether you're whipping up a campfire, piecing together weapons from scraps, or making improvised gear, crafting in Scum feels practical and rewarding. Every item you make feels like an accomplishment, especially when you've scavenged for hours to find just the right materials. The combat is dynamic and tense. Bellwright, a game that throws you into a medieval sandbox and says, here's a world. What are you going to do with it? Whether you're building up a settlement, rallying troops for battle, or managing resources like the lord of your very own kingdom, it's all about blending strategy, exploration, and a healthy dose of medieval chaos. At its heart, Bellwright is a game of duality. On one side, you're building, crafting structures, managing resources, and ensuring your people are thriving. This isn't some simple plop down a building and move on mechanic. You've got to think about placement, efficiency, and what your settlement actually needs to survive. Do you focus on fortifications to keep your enemies out, or expand your farms to feed a growing population? Every decision feels important because it shapes the foundation of your growing kingdom. And then there's the other side of the coin, combat. This isn't just you swinging a sword around, though you can absolutely do that. It's about leading your forces into battle, strategizing on the fly, and figuring out how to outmaneuver enemies that want to knock you and your people down a peg. Battles in Bellwright have this weight to them, like every swing of the sword and every arrow loosed is part of a larger plan, or, in some cases, a desperate attempt to keep your settlement from crumbling under pressure. What makes Bellwright really stand out is how it gives you freedom. You're not locked into a single playstyle or path. You can be the hands-on leader, crafting and building everything yourself. Usant, a game that's all about the climb, literally. This isn't your typical action-packed adventure or sprawling open-world game. Instead, Jusant takes you on a vertical journey, putting the focus squarely on the simple yet profound act of scaling a massive, mysterious tower. Sounds straightforward? Sure, but there's a certain magic in how this game turns something so seemingly simple into such an engaging experience. You control each movement, each grip, and each leap, which makes every ascent feel like a tiny victory. The way the mechanics work, it's almost like a puzzle, where you're constantly figuring out the best route, testing your limits, and adapting to the challenges the climb throws at you. What sets Usant apart is how immersive the climbing itself feels. You're not just scaling some generic wall. You're interacting with the environment, discovering little details, and feeling connected to the act of climbing in a way that's surprisingly meditative. It's about pacing yourself, finding your rhythm, and really soaking in the experience as you ascend higher and higher. And let's not forget about your little companion. You're not climbing alone. There's a quirky creature by your side who adds a touch of charm and personality to the whole journey. It's not just there for show either. This little buddy has a knack for helping you out in ways that feel intuitive and clever, adding an extra layer to the gameplay. Exploration is another key part of Usant. Mortal Shell. If you've ever enjoyed games that make you think before you act, this one is for you. It's all about precision, timing, and strategy. Charging headfirst into a fight, not gonna work. You've got to study your enemies, figure out their patterns, and choose the right moment to strike. It's like a dance where every move counts, and when you nail it, it feels so rewarding. The combat system is where Mortal Shell really shines. It's deliberate and methodical, with a weightiness that makes every action feel significant. It's not about mashing buttons. It's about committing to your decisions, swinging your weapon, dodging, blocking. Each move feels impactful, and that's what makes the fights so intense. And then there's the hardening mechanic. This is such a cool feature that sets the game apart. At any moment, you can turn your character to stone to absorb a hit. It sounds simple, but in practice, it adds a whole new layer to the combat. Timing is everything. Do you harden mid-attack to catch your opponent off guard? Use it defensively to avoid a crushing blow? It's such a clever mechanic that keeps every battle dynamic and exciting. The progression system also deserves some love. It's not just about leveling up and getting stronger. It's about understanding the tools the game gives you and learning how to use them effectively. Exploration is another standout aspect of Mortal Shell. The game rewards curiosity in a big way. There are hidden paths, secrets to uncover, and moments that make you feel like a genius for figuring things out. The Outer Worlds. While it didn't win Game of the Year in 2019, it absolutely deserved to be in the conversation. This was Obsidian showing everyone they still had that RPG magic, delivering a game with tight writing, a quirky sense of humor, and a whole galaxy's worth of exploration and moral dilemmas. It was a breath of fresh air in a genre dominated by massive open-world RPGs, proving that sometimes less is more when it's done right. The world building was top-notch. Set in a retro-futuristic galaxy ruled by megacorporations, the game gave you a ton of freedom to explore different planets, each with its own distinct vibe and politics. The whole corporation's run everything setting was dripping with satire, and it really hit home, especially with the dialogue options. You could choose to be a hero, a corporate shill, or just a chaotic wildcard, and the game would react accordingly. Every decision felt meaningful, and there were so many different ways to play through the story. The writing was easily one of the game's strongest points, whether it was the witty banter with your companions or the moral dilemmas you faced with every mission. The dialogue was smart and sharp. The characters, like Parvati, who became an instant fan favorite, were charming and well written. They added a lot of heart to the otherwise cynical tone of the game, and their personal side quest gave the game an emotional core. One controversy was that, despite its great writing and humor, the game's combat wasn't exactly its strongest feature. Code Vein. You're thrown into a post-apocalyptic world where humanity has taken a back seat, and beings called revenants, basically superpowered humans with a thirst for blood, are struggling to keep it together. The kicker? You're one of them. That means you've got abilities and strengths that make you feel like an absolute powerhouse. But there's always a price to pay. This constant balancing act between unleashing your potential and managing your limits is one of the most intriguing aspects of the game. What really sets Code Vein apart is how much control it gives you. This is not a one-size-fits-all experience. From the moment you start, you're shaping your character to be exactly who you want them to be. Want to wield massive swords and crush enemies with brute force? Go for it. Prefer a faster, more agile approach? You can do that too. And it doesn't stop at weapons. Your blood code, basically your character's skill set, lets you completely change your playstyle on the fly. You're not locked into one way of playing, which is great because it encourages experimentation. Every fight becomes an opportunity to try something new, to push your limits, and to see what works best. Combat in Code Vein is where the magic happens. It's not just about mashing buttons and hoping for the best. No, this game wants you to think, to strategize. Every enemy feels like a challenge, but not in an unfair way. Timing, positioning, and knowing when to go all in or when to back off are key. Inside. This game is proof that you don't need a massive open world or flashy graphics to create a totally gripping experience. It's all about atmosphere, mystery, and those quiet, chilling moments that get under your skin. So you start as this little boy, and there's no introduction, no backstory, no clear direction. You're just there, in this dark, almost eerie world, Right off the bat, you know something's up, but you don't know what or why. And that's part of what makes it so good. There's this mystery that drives you to keep moving forward. The game never tells you what to do or how to feel. It's all up to you to interpret what's going on, which makes it feel really personal. It's like a silent story where you piece together the narrative. Now, the puzzles in Inside are fantastic. They're not the kind of puzzles that feel like random obstacles. They're more like these clever challenges that are woven into the world itself. Everything feels like it belongs there, which adds to the immersion. The game wants you to think, to take your time, and solve things in a way that feels natural. And when you do figure out a tricky part, it's super satisfying. The puzzles aren't so hard that they take you out of the experience, but they're definitely engaging enough to keep you on your toes. And let me just say, Inside doesn't overstay its welcome. It's a relatively short game, but that's part of what makes it so impactful. It's tightly crafted, with no filler, no fluff, just pure atmosphere and storytelling. You can play through it in a few hours, but those hours are filled with a constant sense of awe and unease. Ad infinitum. It's a psychological horror game that takes you to some pretty dark places, but in a way that's absolutely fascinating. What's unique about Ad infinitum is that it doesn't just rely on jump scares or cheap thrills. This game builds tension in a slow burn way that feels like it's crawling under your skin. Every corner you turn, every door you open, there's this constant feeling that something is lurking. The game really makes you feel like you're not alone, like the walls themselves are watching you. It's a level of immersion that's honestly hard to pull off, but Ad infinitum nails it. Set against the backdrop of World War I, the game dives into some pretty intense themes, and it does so with a lot of respect and depth. It's not just about spooky monsters or things that go bump in the night. It's about the horrors of war and the toll it takes on the mind. The protagonist, a soldier haunted by his past, has these surreal and nightmarish visions, and you're right there with him, trying to make sense of what's real and what's not. And let me tell you, there's something deeply unsettling about a horror game that's rooted in real historical trauma. It makes the fear feel so much more personal. Just when you think you've got a handle on what's going on, the game throws you a curveball. You'll be exploring, thinking you're safe, and suddenly you're face to face with something that makes your heart skip a beat. It's not predictable, and that unpredictability keeps you glued to the screen. Empire of Ants. It's like stepping into the world of ants, but with the added bonus of strategy and exploration. You're an ant, and no, this isn't some quirky survival game where you dodge giant raindrops and birds. This is about building a full-blown ant empire. You're managing colonies, gathering resources, and battling threats, all while appreciating the surprisingly intricate lives of these tiny creatures. I'll admit I didn't expect to feel this invested in ant society, but here we are. The game does an amazing job of making you feel like a part of this mini-world. The environments are lush, detailed, and just stunning to look at. Everything is scaled to make you feel appropriately small, towering blades of grass, massive puddles, and terrifying predators that loom over your little army. The gameplay itself is a mix of strategy and resource management, but it's not overwhelming. You're tasked with expanding your colony, which means deciding where to send your workers, what to build, and when to defend your turf. It's one of those games where every decision matters, but it's also forgiving enough to let you learn as you go. I've had moments where I'm like, okay, I've got this, only to realize I didn't assign enough ants to foraging, and suddenly, everyone's hungry. Lesson learned. What I really love is how alive the colony feels. Every ant has a purpose. Some are gathering food, some are defending the nest, and others are just doing their ant thing. It's unique, engaging, and oddly addictive. Mount and Blade 2. This isn't just a typical RPG or strategy game. It's like living out your own medieval fantasy. You start off as a humble character, but from the get-go, you feel like you're on this epic journey to carve out your destiny in a sprawling world filled with kingdoms, clans, and armies. One of the best parts? You're in full control of how you want to play. You could be a mercenary for hire, a fearless warrior leading your own band of soldiers, or even a shrewd trader moving goods across the land. There's so much freedom to just pick a path that feels right for you, and the game fully supports it, no matter what direction you take. The battles are where it gets really intense. You're not just watching the action, you're in the thick of it, swinging swords, firing arrows, and commanding your troops. And these battles are huge. You're part of these massive, chaotic skirmishes, and it feels like you're in the middle of an actual medieval battlefield. But Bannerlord isn't just about fighting. It's also about strategy. You're managing everything from your troops to your resources, deciding when to take risk or play it safe. Building alliances and managing relationships with different lords and factions adds this extra layer that makes it feel like a medieval version of Game of Thrones. Every decision you make, every alliance, and even every slight against another lord has consequences. One thing I love is the world itself. It feels alive. Villages and cities grow. People have their own lives. And you're part of this bigger world that moves forward. Chorus. From the moment you boot it up, you're hit with this stunning universe full of swirling nebulae, glowing space stations, and massive starships that make you feel tiny in the best way. You play as Nara, a starfighter pilot with a mysterious past, and your ship, Forsaken, is your partner in crime, or redemption, depending on how you look at it. The dogfighting is where Chorus shines. It's not just about shooting lasers at enemy ships, although you'll do plenty of that, and it feels amazing. It's about speed, precision, and pulling off these crazy, physics-defying moves that make you feel like an absolute ace. There's this one move where you can drift in space, spinning your ship around to take out enemies while still zipping forward, and every time I pulled it off, I felt like the coolest person alive. The controls are tight and intuitive, but they also make you work for it. You're not going to master the advanced maneuvers right away, and that's part of the fun. There's this awesome sense of progression as you get better and start chaining moves together in combat. By the time you really hit your stride, you're taking on waves of enemies like a one-person fleet, and it's so satisfying. Another thing I love about Chorus is how it gives you a sense of freedom. The game isn't open world in the traditional sense, but there are these beautifully designed areas you can explore between missions. Whether it's helping out stranded civilians, uncovering secrets, or just flying around to soak in the scenery, there's always something to do. Little Hope. It's a part of the Dark Pictures Anthology, which means you're in for a cinematic, choice-driven adventure where every decision you make carries weight. Little Hope is all about putting you in control of a group of characters as they navigate a series of increasingly strange and spine-tingling situations. But this isn't just about surviving, it's about figuring things out. It's like the game wants you to put on your detective hat while simultaneously making sure you're on edge the entire time. Every step forward feels like peeling back a layer of mystery, and trust me, it's not always what you expect. Every dialogue option, every quick decision, and even the times when you hesitate all matter. The game is basically keeping score, and your decisions ripple through the story in ways that can catch you off guard. It's not just about staying alive, it's about shaping the narrative in real time. And yes, that can lead to some wild, unpredictable outcomes, whether it's a life or death moment or just something small that changes the dynamic between characters. You'll find yourself gripping your controller like your life depends on it. The game keeps you on your toes, making sure you're always paying attention. Miss a single beat, and things can take a dramatic turn. But that's part of the fun, right? One of the coolest things about Little Hope is how it encourages replayability. It's like the game is daring you to go back and make different choices just to see what would happen. What if you'd sided with someone else? What if you'd acted differently during a tense moment? Every playthrough feels fresh. Styx Shards of Darkness. It's such a hidden gem when it comes to stealth games. Honestly, if you love sneaking around, outsmarting enemies, and pulling off clever heists, this game is right up your alley. What's cool is that you're not playing as your typical hero. Instead, you're this sarcastic, foul-mouthed goblin named Styx, and he's absolutely hilarious. One of the things that grabbed me right away was Styx himself. I mean, how often do you get to play as a goblin in a video game? And he's not your typical grumpy fantasy character either. Styx has this great sense of humor, breaking the fourth wall sometimes and just having a blast with the whole sneaky thief thing. I found myself laughing at his one-liners way more than I expected. The stealth mechanics are where this game really shines. You're constantly sneaking around, hiding in shadows, and using the environment to outsmart guards. It's not a game where you can just rush in, and that's what makes it so satisfying. You've got to think about every move, and when you pull off a perfect stealth takedown, or get past a bunch of guards without being spotted, it feels amazing. What I love, though, is how creative you can get with your tactics. Styx has all these abilities, like cloning himself or going invisible, and it really lets you play around with different strategies. I'd be sneaking through a heavily guarded area and use a clone to distract the guards while I slipped by unnoticed. It makes you feel like a genius when it works out. And the level design is just so good. The environments are big, with tons of verticality, hidden paths, and places to explore.